A friend of Instagram user Mike Mansholt was reviewing trail camera footage, but instead of wildlife, he saw this. 2 figures walking hand in hand, deeper into the forest. What made it even stranger was what they were wearing. Their clothing looked completely out of place, resembling something from a long past era. Some said it looked like Civil War era clothing. Others thought it resembled early 20th century nightwear. The figures appeared to be a boy and a girl, moving quietly through the trees. Some viewers believe the footage could be staged, but according to the uploader, the camera was set up in an isolated area with no nearby homes or roads. To this day, no one knows who or what the camera captured that night. A man was hiking alone through a dense forest on a cloudy afternoon when something truly disturbing caught his eye. Behind a large tree, something moved. At first, he couldn't make sense of it, but as he focused, he saw a pale, humanoid figure moving on all fours.
What? What is that? Oh my God. No way.
Its movements were unnatural. For a moment, he thought it might be a prank, but the figure just kept moving. That's when the man realized something wasn't right. He immediately turned around and headed back to his car. A family was enjoying a quiet weekend inside their trailer when, late one night, a deep, menacing growl suddenly came from outside. At first, they assumed it was just an animal passing by, but then the sound got louder. And suddenly, the entire trailer began to shake, as if something was pushing against it. The family froze, unsure what to do. After a few tense moments, one of them stepped outside to investigate, camera in hand. What they found was unsettling. The door netting had been torn open, and from behind nearby bushes, a pair of glowing eyes stared back at them. Some believe it could have been a large animal, others think it might be Bigfoot. Unfortunately, whatever was out there that night remains a mystery. In August 1996, 20-year-old Michael Larry Madden set out on a camping trip in California's Stanislaus National Forest. He was an aspiring forest ranger and knew the area well, having camped there many times before. He left early in the morning with his dog, Matilda, planning to meet friends at a spot called Sandbar Flat. 2 days later, in the early hours of August 12th, his friends arrived at the campsite, and immediately something felt wrong. Michael's gear was there, a fire had recently been lit, but there was no sign of Michael or his dog. Then, out of nowhere, a man appeared. He introduced himself as Joseph Tyne, and he was carrying a .45 pistol. He asked the group if they were looking for Mikey, a nickname no one actually used for Michael. The man stayed with them for hours, repeatedly handling and cocking his weapon, watching them. Some even believed he may have been wearing Michael's boots, though this was never confirmed. Eventually he left, and Michael was still nowhere to be found. Days later, his dog returned alone, dehydrated and unable to lead searchers back to him. Despite extensive searches involving rescue teams, divers and tracking dogs, no trace of Michael was ever discovered. Investigators believe he likely met with foul play. The armed stranger was questioned and even took a polygraph, but no charges were ever filed. To this day, the case remains unsolved. Who was that man in the woods, and what happened to Michael Madden? A person was staying the weekend in their cabin near the forest when they received a notification from their security camera late one night. In the middle of the darkened grassy field, a humanoid figure slowly emerged. The figure crept carefully across the lawn. Some suggested it might be an intruder sneaking around, but that didn't make it any less terrifying. Fortunately, nothing happened that night, but the man was left wondering who was creeping around his property and why. A group of cave explorers set up a camera inside an unexplored cavern, planning to return the next day and continue their investigation. but what their camera captured overnight changed everything. Hours into the recording, something appeared. What looked like a massive goat-like head attached to a human-shaped body. Some believe it resembles Baphomet. Others say it's nothing more than an elaborate hoax or someone in a costume. But whatever it was, you have to wonder, would you go back the next day? This person can be seen speaking, possibly preaching, in the middle of the woods when the camera captures something strange. Behind him, a figure slowly begins to materialize. At first, it's faint, almost blending into the background, but then it becomes clearer, standing just behind him, and just as suddenly as it appeared, it's gone. With no information about where or when the footage was recorded or who captured it, there's no way to know what was really standing there. In 1996, two women, Julianne Julie Williams and Laura Lolly Winans, set out on what was supposed to be a peaceful camping trip in Shenandoah National Park. They chose a quiet spot deep in the wilderness near a stream, far away from crowds. But when they didn't return home as planned, concern quickly grew into a large-scale search. Days later, rangers found their campsite, and what they discovered shocked everyone. The two women had been killed in the very place they had gone to find peace. For years, the case remained unsolved, becoming one of the most haunting mysteries tied to the national parks. Investigators followed countless leads, but nothing ever led to a clear answer, until decades later. With advances in DNA technology, investigators re-examined evidence from the scene, and finally, a name emerged. Walter Leo Jackson Sr., a convicted violent offender who had a history of serious crimes and was known to visit the park. Authorities confirmed he was responsible. But there was one final twist. He had already passed away in prison in 2018, meaning he would never face trial for the case. After nearly 30 years, the victims' families finally had answers. On February 17, 2026, a lone hiker was filming deep in the forest when something caught his attention. Up ahead, behind a tree, something moved. At first, it was hard to make out, but as he slowly stepped closer, it shifted, and for a brief moment, a tall figure, covered in rough, straggly fur, revealed itself from behind the tree. Then it pulled back, as if trying not to be seen. Skeptics say it could be a bear, but others argue the movement feels different. Too controlled, too deliberate, almost human. So what do you think this hiker encountered that day? This footage was shared by the Russian news channel citysak.ru in October 2024. Two men were out hiking with their dogs when their quiet outing suddenly turned into something far more dangerous. Out of nowhere, a bear appeared, moving toward them. Hey! Instead of running, the men stood their ground, shouting loudly and waving their arms to make themselves look bigger. Their dogs began barking aggressively as well. For a moment, it could have gone either way, but fortunately, the bear backed off. A young mother was hiking along the popular Bridge to Nowhere trail in the mountains of North Azusa, California. What should have been a normal day on the trail quickly turned into a tragedy. Recent heavy rains had caused the San Gabriel River to swell, turning what are usually manageable crossings into fast-moving, dangerous currents. At the second river crossing, she attempted to make it across, but the force of the water was too strong. She lost her footing and was swept downstream. A nearby runner immediately called for help, alerting members of a search and rescue team who were already in the area, warning hikers about the dangerous conditions. Rescuers rushed to the scene, but by the time they found her, it was too late. A 17-year-old German teen named Mike Mansholt was on holiday in Malta in July 2016. During the trip, he went out alone on a bike ride, and then he disappeared. Days later, his body was found at the base of the Dingley Cliffs, one of the highest points in Malta. From the beginning, authorities suggested he may have fallen, but almost immediately, questions began to surface. There were no clear fractures typically expected from such a fall. His rented bike showed no damage consistent with a crash from that height, and several of his belongings, including his phone, wallet, and camera, were never found. Then came another disturbing detail. When his body was returned to Germany for a second examination, key internal organs were no longer present, something officials attributed to decomposition, but an explanation that has been questioned ever since. Despite multiple investigations, both in Malta and Germany, authorities ultimately stated there was no reasonable evidence of foul play. To this day, the case remains unresolved. This person was staying in their home deep in the woods when they started hearing footsteps on the roof late at night. At first, they tried to ignore it, but the sounds kept coming back. So eventually, they grabbed a flashlight and went outside to check. As they scanned the roof, everything seemed normal, until suddenly, something appeared at the edge.
What the fuck is that?
A head slowly peeking over. Then the video cuts. Was it a person, some kind of animal, or something unknown? A man named Jose Flores, known for exploring abandoned and eerie places alone, decided to spend a night in a forest tied to old witch legends. Locals spoke of glowing fireballs, silent figures, and strange happenings in the dark. Jose crossed a shallow river and ventured deep into the woods, setting up camp as night fell. Almost immediately, he felt like he was being watched. Twigs snapped nearby, as if something was following him.
¿Hay alguien aquí? Buenas noches. Bueno, dicen que nunca debes de preguntar si hay alguien. Yo creo que va a ser esta zona de acá. Otra vez. Va a ser esta zona de aquí. Aquí es donde voy a armar la casa de campaña. Aquí voy a preparar las cosas. Nada más voy a limpiar un poco la zona. Uy, acaban de caminar atrás de mí. Se acaba de escuchar clarito que caminaron detrás de mí ahora sí. Bueno, voy a tratar de apurarme lo más rápido que se pueda.
Moments later, he heard a soft, distant whistle.
Y conforme vaya avanzando el tiempo, pues ir a dar recorridos a través del bosque tratando de no perderme, pero caminar entre el medio del bosque para ver. Se los juro que acabo de escuchar como si alguien hubiera silbado en la parte de atrás. No sé si se captó ahí en cámara, pero yo escuché como un silbido.
Later that night, this happened.
¡Hey! Hoy. Hay algo corriendo, pero es algo grande. Y parece que está como que corriendo alrededor de mí. Hoy. ¿Quién eres? ¿Qué quieres? Hoy.
Something pressed hard against the fabric of his tent. But it didn't end there.
Hoy. ¿Quién eres? Hey. ¿Quién anda ahí? Hey.
Between the trees, a pale humanoid figure appeared, unnaturally white, standing still, just staring. Terrified, Jose packed up and fled, feeling like something was following him the entire way back to his vehicle. A man had set up a trail camera on his property. One night, his dog, normally calm, suddenly became tense and started barking into the darkness, as if it sensed something. Moments later, the trail camera captured this. A blurry figure darting across the frame at incredible speed. So fast, it's almost impossible to make out. The movement didn't resemble anything the man had ever seen before. Some speculated it could be a so-called dog man, while others believed it was nothing more than shadows or camera distortion. But if that's the case, why did the dog react before anything even appeared on camera? A man was staying in a vibrant green forest when he suddenly heard the roar of an approaching storm.
Shit, you're right. Oh, wow.
In a hurry, he ran inside the house, camera still rolling, trying to capture what was happening. Seconds later, a powerful windstorm slammed through the area, shaking everything around him. From inside, he could only catch brief glimpses of the chaos, but once it passed, he stepped outside, and what he saw was shocking.
Oh my gosh! Look up there!
The lush greenery, once full of life, had been completely shredded. Have you ever experienced a storm like this? A homeowner in Kerala, India, was parking his car one evening after returning from a trip, when something in front of his house made him freeze. Just a few feet away, a massive panther was wandering across his property. The house bordered a forest, which could explain how it got there. Fortunately, he noticed it just in time and recorded this short clip. Had he stepped out in that moment, he would have come face to face with one of the most dangerous predators in the wild. A Reddit user named BasketKing64 was walking near his property in the northern Appalachian woods with his dog. For the past 5 to 6 years, he and his mother had occasionally seen a strange red light deep in the woods at night. But this time, he finally managed to capture it on video. According to him, the light would appear in different spots along the forest line, never staying in one place for long. Whenever it showed up, his dog would briefly stare at it, then suddenly bolt back toward the house, refusing to go any closer. Even deer in the area seemed to avoid it entirely, keeping their distance whenever the light was present. The light never stayed on for more than an hour, and sometimes it wouldn't appear at all for months. Some suggested it could be a person using a red headlamp in the woods, but that explanation raises even more questions, because according to the uploader, this was private property. So if it was a person, what were they doing out there in the dark all those times? A man retreated to his remote cabin in the woods, hoping for peace and quiet. But one morning, that silence was suddenly broken.
What is that?
A loud, unidentifiable noise echoed through the trees, something that didn't sound like anything he had heard before. Panicked, he didn't stick around to find out what it was. He grabbed his things and fled the cabin as fast as he could. Later, when he shared the footage online, people were divided. Some believed it could be a skinwalker. Others suggested Bigfoot. Skeptics argued it might have been a moose, or even just a sound played through a speaker. But whatever made that noise, it was enough to make him abandon the cabin without looking back. A family was staying at their cabin in the woods, enjoying a quiet, peaceful weekend. But late one night, everything changed. Their phones suddenly lit up with motion alerts from the security cameras outside. When they checked the footage, they couldn't believe what they were seeing. From the darkness of the woods behind their home, a figure slowly emerged. It looked humanoid, slightly hunched, moving cautiously toward the property. And then, the footage cuts. Some believe it could be a person in a ghillie suit. Others have suggested something far more mysterious, like a young Sasquatch, or even a cryptid said to roam areas like Arizona's Angel Valley. Skeptics argue it's just a prank, or possibly even AI generated. But without any more footage, the mystery remains. A group of friends were out hiking when suddenly one of them spotted this in the sky, a strange orb. Moving with a speed and precision that made everyone stop and stare. It didn't look like a plane, or drone, or even a satellite. The way it moved felt controlled, almost intentional. On February 25th, a woman in Washington was walking outside late at night. During her walk, something unusual caught her attention in the sky above. A bright light, hovering silently, glowing with a soft bluish hue. Curious, she zoomed in, and that's when it got even stranger. Surrounding the main light were smaller, multicolored lights, all appearing to move together, forming one connected shape. It didn't look like a plane or anything she recognized. Some believe it could have been a UFO. YouTuber UV Parjapti Vlogs was hiking through the mountains. As he was walking, he suddenly started hearing strange animal-like sounds echoing through the area. Curious, he looked toward where it was coming from, and that's when he noticed this. A figure with long dark hair and a pale face, peeking out from behind the rocks, then quickly retreating over and over again. Feeling uneasy, he decided not to investigate any further and left the area. Some viewers believe it could be AI manipulation. Others think it might have been a staged prank. But what if it wasn't? A family living deep in the Appalachian Mountains had grown increasingly uneasy after experiencing a series of strange events around their home. Determined to capture proof, they installed security cameras around the property. One camera, aimed toward the dense woods behind the house, recorded something that left them stunned. In the dead of night, a figure can be seen moving between the trees. It appears, then disappears, as if slipping in and out of view. So could this have been responsible for the strange events happening around their home? A 21-year-old adventurer named Joseph Brambilla set out on November 11, 2025 to climb Mount Whitney, just 2 days after his birthday. At over 14,500 feet, it's the tallest mountain in the continental United States, and while thousands attempt it each year, the conditions can turn dangerous very quickly. Joseph began the climb alone. He was last seen near the summit, where he told another hiker he planned to descend using a technique known as a glissade, sliding down snow-covered slopes. But at that time of year, those slopes can turn icy, steep, and unforgiving. After that moment, Joseph vanished. Search and rescue teams launched a massive effort, combing the mountain's cliffs, ravines, and high-altitude trails. But deep snow and harsh conditions made the search extremely difficult. Weeks passed with no answers. Then, after 35 days, hikers spotted a body in a remote section known as the 99 Switchbacks. Recovery teams confirmed it was Joseph. Investigators believe he likely lost his footing and fell on the steep, icy terrain. A man had been hearing strange noises around his property for weeks. So he set up a trail camera to catch whatever was lurking in the woods. What he captured was far beyond anything he expected. In the footage, a pale, hunched figure can be seen moving through the shadows, almost translucent. When he zoomed in, the details became even more disturbing. Some believe it could be a skinwalker, a demonic entity, or something supernatural, but no real explanation has ever been given. A 46-year-old ultra-marathon runner, Kristen Marie Kovac, set out alone on a hike near Rocky Mountain National Park on New Year's Day. It was supposed to be a peaceful start to the year, but something went terribly wrong. At some point along the trail, she was attacked by a mountain lion. By the time other hikers became aware and help was called, it was already too late. Kristen had suffered fatal injuries consistent with a mountain lion attack. Friends later described her as an experienced runner who loved the outdoors, someone who found peace on those very trails. A researcher studying unusual land formations came across a strange idea. What if some of the world's mountains weren't mountains at all? He noticed that certain formations, especially flat-topped ones, looked eerily similar to massive tree stumps. Places like Devil's Tower in the US or Giant's Causeway in Ireland have distinct shapes that at first glance almost resemble the remains of something once alive, something enormous. This led some people to a much more extreme theory, that these formations aren't the result of volcanic activity or erosion, but the fossilized remains of ancient gigantic trees from a long-lost world. Supporters of the idea often point to ancient legends of giants and unusual structures from early civilizations that seem larger than expected, but scientists strongly disagree. They explain these formations as the result of natural geological processes, like cooling lava creating column-like patterns or erosion shaping rock over millions of years. Still, the resemblance is striking enough that the theory continues to circulate online. So what do you think? For more trail encounters, let's watch this next video.